Have you ever really stopped to think about what's happening inside your body after, say, a glass of wine? It's way more than just a feeling, you know? It's this whole complex biological journey. Today, we're going to follow a single simple molecule, ethanol, from the very first sip all the way to the morning after.
I mean, it's a process most of us are familiar with, right? But the science behind it, wow. It's an incredible story of chemistry, biology, and neurology all firing off at once. So, what's the real play-by-play? What's going on from that first taste?
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at it through the lens of pharmacology. Now, don't worry, it sounds complicated, but it's basically a two-way street. The first part is what the substance, in this case ethanol, does to your body. That's the buzz, the good feelings. Then there's the second part, what your body does back to the substance to get it out of there. So we're going to follow our little ethanol molecule through both acts of this drama.
All right, Act 1. It begins the moment you take a drink. And the first thing you need to know about ethanol is that it does not like to wait around. It wastes zero time getting into your system. See, because ethanol is such a tiny little molecule, it doesn't need a special invitation or a key to get in. It just slides right through the walls of your stomach and intestines and hops directly into your bloodstream. It's a ridiculously efficient process.
But that speed isn't always the same. As you've probably heard, having food in your stomach definitely slows things down. But here's where it gets kind of wild. The bubbles in carbonated drinks can actually speed up absorption. And the real shocker, stress can do the exact same thing. And this whole thing happens incredibly fast. We're talking within just 10 to 15 minutes, ethanol is already reaching the organs that get the most blood flow. And which one gets the VIP ticket right to the front of the line? You guessed it, the brain. The full effect, what we call peak blood alcohol concentration, that usually hits somewhere between 30 and 90 minutes after you've had your drink.
So now that our ethanol molecule has arrived at its main destination, what does it actually do? This is where the whole what the drug does to the body part really kicks into high gear.
At its absolute core, alcohol is a depressant. Now, that doesn't mean it makes you feel emotionally depressed, but it literally depresses or slows down your entire central nervous system. It's fundamentally changing the way your brain cells are talking to each other.
And it does this in a really clever way. Just think of your brain as having a gas pedal and a brake pedal. Ethanol basically comes in and slams its foot on the brake. Those are your GABA receptors. That's what makes you feel relaxed and a bit less inhibited. But at the exact same time, it's blocking the gas pedal, your NMDA receptors, and that's what can mess with your memory and thinking. It's this 1-2 punch that creates all those classic effects of being tipsy.
Of course, how much you feel this stuff depends entirely on the dose. At a low concentration, maybe 0.05%, you get that nice feeling of euphoria. You're more talkative, relaxed. But as that number starts to climb, the effects escalate, and they escalate fast. You go from impaired memory and motor skills to confusion, and at very high levels, you're in the danger zone of alcohol poisoning. It's a really, really steep curve.
So while all of that is going on up in the brain, your body has already started Act 2, the fight back. And the absolute hero of this part of the story, no question, is your liver. Get this, an incredible 90% or even more of all the ethanol you drink is processed by the liver. It's the body's main detoxification plant, and it takes its job very seriously.
So when this molecular intruder shows up, the liver doesn't panic. It's got a cool, methodical, two-step plan to break the ethanol down and escort it right out of the body.
Okay, so here's the plan. Step 1, a special enzyme converts the ethanol into a pretty toxic compound called acetaldehyde. Step 2, another enzyme immediately swoops in to convert that nasty stuff into something called acetate, which is mostly harmless. Seems simple enough, right? 1 and 2, and you're done.
Well, not quite. The problem, the real villain in this whole metabolic story, is that chemical in the middle.
Acetaldehyde. This stuff is toxic, and it's a carcinogen. It's the culprit behind so many of alcohol's damaging effects on the body. Your liver works so hard and so fast on that second step because it knows just how nasty this stuff is, and it wants it gone as quickly as humanly possible.
So this brings us to the final phase of our journey, the cleanup, the elimination, and yeah, those all too familiar consequences of the night before.
Here's the deal. Your liver can only work so fast. The enzymes that process alcohol, they get totally overwhelmed, saturated. It's like a factory assembly line that's already running at maximum capacity. This means your body gets rid of alcohol at a slow, steady, constant rate.
You really can't speed up the process.
And just how fast are we talking? Well, on average, the liver processes about 15 milligrams per deciliter per hour for men. For women, it's actually a little bit faster, about 18. But either way, that's a slow, steady pace. It's why it takes hours and hours for alcohol to completely clear your system.
So what about that dreaded hangover? Yeah, dehydration and bad sleep are definitely part of it, for sure. But a leading theory points right back to this whole process. That harmless final product, acetate, has been directly linked to causing those signature hangover headaches.
Okay, so we've walked through the general journey, but this story is absolutely not the same for everyone. The effects of alcohol are super individual.
We touched on food, and the difference is massive. On an empty stomach, absorption is lightning fast, and it leads to a much higher peak concentration. But food acts like a buffer. It slows the whole process down and can actually reduce the total amount of alcohol that even gets into your system in the first place.
And there are so many other factors that make up your own personal equation. Your genetics can make those cleanup enzymes more or less efficient. If you drink regularly, your body adapts by literally making more of those enzymes, and that's how you build tolerance. Even things like your body composition and your sex affect how fast you metabolize, which means the exact same drink can have a very different effect on different people.
You know, in the end, ethanol is just a couple of carbon atoms, some hydrogens, and an oxygen. It's a simple molecule, but its journey reveals this unbelievably complex and fascinating biological system inside of us that's working tirelessly to process, to adapt, and to protect. It really makes you wonder, what does this complexity teach us about the amazing machinery we're walking around in every single day?